everybody. Welcome back to Chatty Cathy's Place. My name is Kathy, and today I'm going to review the Belle Collective Season 1, Episode 4, Bad Brunch Behavior. But before I get into it, why don't you go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the channel? I'd really appreciate that. So why don't we get into it? Spoiler alert. This is a two-part episode. This is the first of a two-part episode, I should say. So, of course, there's a cliffhanger at the end. Um, Marie, our villainess, is involved in that cliffhanger, and I'll leave you to guess what that is. So let's get into it, everybody. So we began with Tamra meeting at a restaurant with Ramona. Ramona is an old confidant who also happens to be a general manager for a Fox Sporting Channel in Jackson, Mississippi. Um, the first thing that came to my mind is not the nicest thing, I will admit. But I'm listening to Tambra, talking about, her turning 40 and her career and life goals. And that's what 40 actually does to you. If you are single, if you do not have children, she's going to be at a crossroads. That's what it is. But what I thought about is she's making her living in radio, which is not a bad career. And she's gone as far as she can go in Jackson, Mississippi. And so they discussed the fact that she has to leave her comfort zone and go somewhere else, maybe New York, which is the hub of news in this country. Um, and she's afraid. That's the bottom line on that. She's also thinking she's pressured by her parents and thinking about having children. She tells her that she has frozen her eggs. Um, and then Ramona starts to talk to Tambra about some of the choices that she made and some of the sacrifices that she made, and that she had wanted to have children. But she realized if she had children, they'd have to be raised by a nanny because she was traveling and she was working, and her job would interfere with being a mother. So she chose what for her was the right decision. So Tamara, she has on this bracelet, and it says, "What would Oprah do?" WWOD. What would Oprah do? Which is, in my mind, putting Oprah where God should be, but that's another thing. So Tamara says she doesn't want any regrets, and Ramona tells her that she's had regrets. Also, Tamara's thinking, she wants to have it all. And Ramona tells her, you can't have it all. And I happen to believe you can have it all. So nobody asked me, though. She was talking to Ramona. But the thing that bothers me about Tamara, and you may say, you fit in that category too. And it may be true. But it bothers me that Tamara makes her living being unseen but being heard. And so when we listen to the radio, we're hypersensitive to the tones of the voices of the people who are there. And in my experience, people on the radio have really good voices, very good voice quality. They are very articulate, even if it's like, one of those stations where people are a little bit more real. They still have good voices. Tamara's voice is like nails on a chalkboard. Like she was wearing me out. And ladies and gentlemen, spoiler alert number 2, she's in this episode a whole lot. Maybe a little bit too much. But that's my opinion. I feel like I'm welcome to it. So we move on from her for now. All right. And we go to Letitia. Letitia is forging on with her vision for Farris Street. So she's back on Farris Street. She's meeting with a councilman, a contractor, and appraiser. She is more than disappointed when they tell her she can't purchase the building that she's been looking for. And the reason that she can't purchase it is because um, it is in the historical residence, uh, and you can't buy those things. But she can lease it. And the lease, the renovation for it would be about $500,000. And then let me go back. Let me go back. Just for acquiring the lease, that would be $500,000. And then the renovation cost would be from about 900,000 to $1.5 million. But the building has been sitting empty, so you don't know what you're going to find when you go inside. They don't go inside of the building. So they're giving her an appraisal without seeing anything but the external front of the building. They haven't been in the building, they haven't been to the back of the building, they haven't looked at the roof, they haven't seen anything but the facade, and they've given her this 200, I'm sorry, $2 million estimate, which you can tell by her facial expressions that she's shocked, right? And if you look in her eyes, she's discouraged also. But she says that she's not discouraged, so I'm going to believe her. Body language is a real thing, but I'm going to believe her. She said that, she's going to look to these ladies that go to her brunches, and I guess she's going to try to, poach them to make some donations toward toward the renting of the building and the renovation. So then we move on to Marie. And Marie and her son Jerez attend their first counseling session with Dr. Chandler. He's really laid back. He's casually dressed. He talks to Jerez in terms of basketball. And so he is responsive to the doctor. Now, I know teenagers. I used to be a therapist many moons ago, and you have to talk to them in their own language. But for a lot of times, when their parents bring them to counseling and they don't really want to go, they will sit there and it's like pulling teeth. They're not like little kids where you can, engage them in things and get information out of them just by engaging them in activities. Teenagers are special people, but Dr. Chandler was able to make a connection with Jerez. And he tells Jerez that he needs to apologize to his mother. He tells his mother that one thing, she started to play the tape recording of their argument, and he tells her don't do that anymore. And I agree with him 100%. Because in my opinion, she's taking this recording around to everybody, and she's kind of crying on everybody's shoulder, and really she's humiliating her son, and she's building up her self-esteem, so it were. And it's just wrong on so many levels. So Dr. Chandler tells her, instead of doing that, they can call him and maybe come in for a session because things are not going according to plan. And so that's wonderful. So Jerez was saying that he didn't understand why his mom was mad about him going to a school that's 2 hours, I think it was 2 hours away, um, because he's still going to be in school. And from his perspective, and again, he may have 3 children, but he's still a kid. In his perspective, he's doing what his mother wants him to do. He's going to college, but he's not really wanting her to control where he goes. And she had talked to him about sitting out from basketball, getting himself in physical condition, and also getting together with his education, and then the next year to go back to basketball. Now that sounds cute, And if Marie were a woman, now I'm going to assume that she has either a bachelor's degree or a master's degree because she's in a doctoral program, right? And so I'm assuming that this woman has some sense, even though I haven't seen 1 ounce of sense with her, not yet. I'm sure it's there. I'm sure it's there, and I'm going to keep watching. You know, okay. So we're at the fourth out of 6 episodes, and I haven't seen it yet. But I'm keeping hope alive because this woman acts like she has no screws uh, together up there. Because you can't go to a college basketball program and tell the coach that you're going to sit out for a year, but you'll be back next year and you'll be conditioned and your academics will be on point, and have the coach say, "Oh, that's a good idea." Athletics are competitive. If he sits out, somebody else is going to sit in, right? I mean, he's just not. He's no Michael Jordan. He's no, Magic. He's no all of the names. He's no LeBron. He's no Kobe. He's none of that. I don't even know. But I know if he was some of that, I would have heard about him before, the Bell Collective, right? So I'm thinking he's none of that. And being that I said he's none of that, he probably, if he wants to play basketball, he better keep playing. And they work with you on your academics, they work with you on your conditioning. But if he wants to play, he can't step out and step in at will. My opinion. All right, so let's get back to to the actual episode as opposed to me, you know, tripping a little bit. All right, so Marie is very, very clearly still traumatized by her mother's drug use and by her mother's abandonment. And so when she has fights with her son, like she keeps telling him, "I've done so much for you, and my mother didn't do anything for me, and I'm still here for you, and I'm taking care of your 3 children, and I'm taking care of one of their mothers," which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, makes no sense. I can see her, even though I wouldn't do it, I can see her idea of financially taking care of her grandchildren while their father is in school. I can partially see that. And partially because it is not teaching the child responsibility. It's clear he doesn't know anything about responsibility because he has 3 children under the age of 1. I don't even know what to say about that. That's crazy to me. 3 children under the age of 1. He has no job. And he doesn't even want to communicate with the children. I mean, with the children's mother. Yeah. So he won't answer the phone if he thinks they're calling for something about the children. He needs to learn some responsibility. He needs to learn that ASAP, because those children can't go back and wait for him to graduate college, right? And if he has to be responsible for those children, maybe he will use condoms the next time he has sex. I'm not going to fool myself and say, well, maybe he should stop having sex. That's not realistic. Once people start having sex, they don't stop. Sex is nice. People like it. People like it. You got a handful of people in the entirety of the world who don't like it, but most of us, we like it. And so he needs to be responsible. He needs to condom. And if he wants more than 3 kids, that's deep. He could really have a vasectomy because he's sped everything up. So he could, some kind of birth control is all I'm saying. And I think as a mother, that's her responsibility to teach him to be responsible, if that makes sense. Taking care of his one of the mothers, even if this child does not have a mother, and that's worst case scenario. Her mother is worst case. She's deceased or she's on narcotics, and she has nobody to stand in the stead for her. I'm going to assume that she is 18, 19. I'm assuming. Guess what she could do? She too can get a job. People do it all the time. They have babies and stuff, and then they get a job, and you know what they do? They take the salary from the job and they take care of their children. End of that. All right. Marie's happy about the outcome of um, the counseling session. But in all honesty, I think that Marie really needs to have some sessions, just her and the counselor. If she doesn't want to do it with Dr. Chandler, then she should do it with another therapist. But she needs that for herself so that she can heal from her abandonment issues, because that has a lot to do with everything. Everything that's wrong with Marie has to do with, it could be directly correlated with her mother's abandoning her. And I've only seen her 3 times, right? 4 times. So that's that. So Latrice is not going to go to the brunch for a couple of reasons. Marie being one, because she was messing with her coins, to be honest. And also she's working on her plan. And she's talking to her husband, right? And of course, after her business was successful and not before, he wanted to be a partner. He had promised that he was going to be a silent partner. What silent partner means is that you donate money, but you don't say anything about the business part of it, right? So she's having a meeting, um, and he pops in, right? And he's saying, "Why didn't you call me? You were having a meeting." And she says, "Well, I'm talking about, the product and so on and so forth." And he says, "Well, why didn't you call me?" And she didn't call him because he doesn't know anything about that business, right? And so consequently, he was not invited to that meeting. And he didn't like it. He wants to be in the middle of everything. My problem with him is that he wants to be in the middle of everything. But my real problem with him is that he's not really supportive of his wife, and he has expressed this because he did not believe in the business initially. So if he had money, which apparently he does, he could have at least minimally supported her. And then he could say, "I was always there for you." But he can't say that because he wasn't. And also, now again, this is just the fourth episode, but I haven't heard him say anything nice about her. Now, she's an attractive woman. She has a successful business. She's expanding her business and potentially to be more successful. She is younger than him. She is um, she is all that he deserves. That wasn't right. I've said a couple shady things. Sorry, people. I know I don't know you. Okay, so that's all. That's all about them. So let's go to Letitia and Antoinette. They meet up at the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum, and they're both looking at the exhibits and talking. And they're getting emotional because the exhibits are, of course, emotional. It's pictures of the Middle Passage, of people being lynched. Um, like the ancestors, they can't help but to connect spiritually, emotionally with the ancestors and what they had to go through. And the reason that they had to go through so much is because they were black. The reason that black people go through so much today, so many hundreds of years later, is still because we're black, right? So, yeah, they got emotional. who wouldn't get emotional? The only person I could see going in to such a museum um, and not having emotional, at least internally, become emotional is someone who is not black and maybe doesn't like black people. But if you're black in this country, you're going to feel something because it's so atrocious. All the things that were and still are done to us because we are black. So anyway, Antoinette starts talking about feeling both pride in being black and rage at all of the things that the ancestors went through. And she vows that she is going to use her dental practice to serve her people. And that's what I'm into, right? And everything, I'm silly, obviously I watch reality TV and so on and so forth. But in reality, I believe we all have something, some talent that we can use to serve our people, our community. And I'm proud of her. I don't know her clearly, but I'm proud that she has seen a connection between dentistry and the community because I mean we have teeth, right? And if you have something wrong with your teeth and with your gums, it directly affects your heart. So it's something that people should be both educated about and and they should have treatment for it. So I'm happy that she's going to do that. That's wonderful. Um, so they start to bond and they're discussing stuff and Letitia is just about to tell Antoinette about her project. But she says, no, I'm going to wait until the brunch and then I'm going to make an announcement there. And Antoinette is, really telling her that she's on board for her, you know. And so they had a nice little rainy day. All right, so we're back to Tambra because I told you we would be. And she's out on a date with her ex. Her They dated for 16 years. We don't know why they stopped dating, but she's all giggly, and, and there's that voice again that I find grating. But they met as teenagers and they start catching up, and he wants to know why they didn't work out. And that's a really legit question because if you were with someone um, for 16 years, he still maintains a relationship with Tambra's parents. So he was obviously really into it for a good reason, right? So he asked that question. She has no answer because um, she seems to only have questions for people about herself. Like she doesn't seem to have many answers. So my suggestion for her would be um, therapy. Amen. All right. So they discuss children because neither of them have had children, and she says, once again that she has frozen her eggs. In case you guys didn't get it. um, she realizes that her career interfered with her relationship. And I know some people who are DJs too on the radio. They usually do a 4 hour bid daily. And usually the people who are on the radio through the week are not on the radio on the weekend. They have other people during the weekend, right? I mean, we still live in the same world, right? And she may do some side stuff, some hosting, some speaking engagements. Some wonder why she couldn't have a relationship. Is why I'm saying all of that. Like, why couldn't she have a relationship with someone that she's known for so long, or with another someone that maybe she hasn't known for so long? Why, ladies and gentlemen, can she not have a man? If you remember, or if you figure it out, hit me up down in the comments. I want to know why she can't do that. She's a relatively attractive woman, right? She has big bundles in her hair, right? So, people are into all of that. So she has paint on her face. Like, people are into that. She's in good shape. Um, and obviously she's friendly, right? So, like, what's the problem? All right. So at the end of the date, they decided they're going to have date number two. Okay. So guess where we are now in the episode, baby. We have arrived at brunch number two. Yes, indeed. Now, if you think for 1 second that there's no drama there, and if you think that because Latrice is not there, you would be ooh so wrong. Ooh so wrong. All right, so let me set the scene. In attendance are Letitia, Tambra, Marie, Dorothy Davis from Ferris Street, the councilman, Kiefer Stamps. He's the only man at the brunch. Melody, who is Latrice's PR woman, Antoinette and Talon. Callan, I'm sorry. Callan is a friend of Antoinette's. She went to college with her. Antoinette knew everything about her courtship and marriage and divorce. So this is somebody that she trusts. She just happens to be a white woman at this brunch. So everyone greets one another. Marie shades Antoinette a little bit for no apparent reason. They have never had an encounter, right? What happened at brunch number one is that Antoinette came with Latrice and they were talking, and they were sitting across the table from Marie, and Marie started, in talking about Latrice's hair. And Latrice was like, "You should have come to me, um, not here, because that's my brand, and you're messing with my coin, basically." And Marie, I don't know, she's all kind of wrong, but okay. Everybody there has on a brunch hat or a fascinator, and they're wearing those fascinators like they wear it in England, and they think it's cute. So I think it's cute too, but I don't really. But I think it's cute too. So Marie feels that Antoinette looks like she's going to a funeral because she has on a hat and some gloves. But she too has on a hat, and I don't even know. She's negative, negative. She has that negative energy that she works, it bothers me so much that she works in my field. And initially on the first episode, I thought, oh, I'm going to like her. She's in mental health. Like she's for the betterment of the people in the community. And this woman, she's a messy, messy woman. She snipes, like, where's your entourage? Because, Latrice isn't there. And Antoinette has done absolutely nothing to her. When they were at branch number one, she argued with Latrice, and then Latrice and Antoinette leave because Latrice and Antoinette came together. So of course they're going to leave together, but that doesn't mean that Antoinette was involved in the hula la. So I'm just thinking, along with counseling for Marie, she should, grow up. Yeah. So Antoinette says that she has no beef with Marie, and Marie says that you haven't been acting like it. And I'm like, really? Like, she hasn't done anything to you. Like, this little girl, I mean, I am shocked that, well, I'm not shocked anymore, but I was shocked that Antoinette had been married and divorced. She was the youngest dentist to graduate in her class. She's a young woman. You could look in her face and see that she's very young. And so I was really surprised that she had been married and divorced. And I was thinking, like the brain doesn't fully develop until you're about 25. And they're starting to see research that's implying that you might be 30 if before it's completely developed. Excuse me. So this girl is young. She's under 30 in my opinion. And she shouldn't even gotten married because you're not making logical decisions, right? And the only decision I think she made logically is you don't want to start your career and then stop it for a number of years and think that everything is going to be okay. That's just not how the real world works. But why I know she's young is that she married a white man. I'm sure he was white the entire time they were dating and when they were married. And somehow it shocked her that if she had children with him, they would be biracial. So I'm assuming that she's bright because, the business thing, her business model and all of that, her desire to expand her career, all of that indicates that she is bright. But to not understand before you get married that if you had children, they would be biracial, it's questionable. It's questionable. So that makes me think that she needs some therapy too. So that's like three. I'm like putting everybody in therapy over here. So we're back at the brunch, and Callum walks in with Antoinette, and you can tell, Marie has this body language that lets you know what's going on in her head. It's never positive. Check that out. So they open up with an affirmation, and the affirmation is say, I am a beautiful, strong black woman. Now, there are two people that don't fit in the category, right? There's the councilman who could be beautiful and black, but he's a man. And then there's Callan. And she some people may think she's beautiful, but she's a white woman. And I don't think that the councilman was uncomfortable. I don't think. But I am pretty darn sure that Callan is uncomfortable. Um, and Antoinette starts to worry. She might be overwhelmed. So Tamara is the host this time, and she asks everyone, how many people have experienced racism? And so, the people raise their hand because, ladies and gentlemen, you can't be an American, be black, and never experience racism. It is ingrained. It is systemic. So, yeah, you may not be aware of it or something, you may not be paying attention, but guess what? Somebody has discriminated against you. Now, these people, I'm from the North. I've experienced it. That's all I can really say about it. I've experienced it so much that, it makes me angry to think about it. But Tamara said that she had just, for the first time, experienced racism. And it was kind of a subtle racism that she experienced. And she's in Jackson, Mississippi. And I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Um, and now I live, across the country, but certainly in Philadelphia, I experienced it. I experienced it when I traveled. I experienced it when I go to the store. I experienced it in college. I experienced it, just about every aspect of my life. The only place I didn't experience it firsthand is when I was in K through 12 school. And the reason I didn't experience it is because I had black teachers and they were phenomenal. Most of them were young because, that's what they do. They put young, inexperienced, or lesser experienced teachers in the black schools. That's been going on for a while. But these people happen to be phenomenal. And, I talk to people and they'll not know something that I'm like, well, didn't you learn that in elementary school? Because not only did my teeth, I mean, they really taught me because I can remember not only the information, but I can remember where I learned it, because that's the way my mind works. But yeah, I remember it. They were phenomenal. So it wasn't until I was 17 that I really experienced it because I didn't really interact with white people. But once I did, it was on and popping. They got their racism on. So Letitia says that you're in Jackson, Mississippi. You may not have noticed racism in your travels, but yeah, I'm pretty sure you've experienced it before. This is not your first time. And then she says, and maybe it was a different conversation for you because you're very light complected, and light complected black people experience racism differently than darker hued black people. And and she said, "Oh, do you think that's what it is?" Like she was open to the possibility, which is good. And then Callan, for some reason, it was all about her, and she couldn't take it anymore. So she runs out. Can anybody tell me why? I'm going to tell you why. She runs out because that's what Karens do, right? That's what Karens do. Everything is about them. Okay, so then after she runs out, people run out after her. So Antoinette, understandably, go and see, what's going on with her because she came with her. But the rest of the people didn't have to do it, but they did. They went out, and they wanted to make sure Sweet Karen was okay, right? So they went out, and she was saying, she's crying. Again, it was the black people who experienced and were experiencing racism, but it's Callan who's crying. So she's crying because she said, when white people get together, we don't talk about black people. We don't. We don't hate black people. So, and she cried like I do because I have no tears, and I ain't seen that on her either. So, black people, they don't do that. And they don't hate us. Um, but explain to me then, Carolyn, if you can, how did that white cop have his knee on George Floyd's neck? Why did he do that? You idiot. You have the audacity to tell black people that white people don't hate them? Then she goes on. I promise you, I'm not a violent woman, but I wanted to just reach into the television screen and just lift her up and knock the living you know what out of her. And then I would like to have stomped her. I don't want to kill her, but I want to make her feel like she was killed for saying something like that. All of the things that my ancestors and my family and I have gone through, and she said they don't hate us. They don't talk about us. They talk about us so much that they're mad they can't use the N word in public. Why do you get to use it and I can't? I'm over that. So, uh, somehow Antoinette, who is clearly not like me, so she explains very gently to Callan why the people were talking about their experiences, and they understand that it's not her. They were just talking about some stuff that happened, and she just, she's rubbing on, just calm down, and they're telling her you can be a help to your fellow white people, and you can explain that you hurt people when you're racist toward them, and when you discriminate, they don't like it, and you're just hurting them, and they're just people. They're lovely, lovely people, and they're talking to her, and they're literally stroking this idiot, and they're telling her, she can do it. And so she says, I will go back in. I will. And she goes back in. And then she, Antoinette, she explains to the rest of the people why Callan ran out and how she was so overwhelmed. And she didn't want the people to think that she felt that way about them. And and by the way, I don't think the people were thinking about her when they were talking, but okay, back to that. Um, so Callan decides that she wants to speak and she wants to make peace. And um, she tells them that her grandfather, 3 times removed, was Jefferson Davis. And you know that this is an aside. You know that Mississippi just got rid of last year the Confederate flag as the state flag, but they don't hate black people. And then she starts talking, and Marie, after she said that her grandfather was Jefferson Davis, Marie says, "Okay, let's get back to this. This is my friend's um, brunch. It's about her. It's not about you. So let's get back to that." And Callan didn't like that. She didn't like it at all. So she um, somehow she started to be sarcastic, and she's saying stuff like, "Oh, did I hurt you?" And "You're nobody. Nobody knows who you are." And then Marie says, "Well, Google me." Because, I mean, she's a successful businesswoman. She might be, a little slimy and grimy, but she's a successful businesswoman. I don't know who Callan is. So, okay. And then Callan says, "Come here." Now, I don't really know what that means. They don't say that in Philly. So she says, "Come here," and I think that Marie took it the way I guess you could take it, and that means that she's giving her a command, and Marie doesn't like a command. So, she tells her it's not 1920 or 30. Like, you don't give me commands. And so then Tambra, she's like shocked at the entire mess. The councilman gets up and he walks out. Letitia is visibly upset because she's like, the councilman is leaving. Now she could and should have gone and apologized to him and asked him if he could please just sit out in the what I'm going to call Callan's waiting room, and let her go in and calm things down, and he could come back in for the announcement. But she didn't. She just was upset, and I can understand that to a point. So Marie has asked Callan to leave, and she says, "I'm not going anywhere." And she said, "Come here." And she again reminds her, "This is not the '60s. You don't command me." So Letitia says that Marie has some good intentions, but she's gone too far. She is upset with her. She's upset with Callan. Fade to black. To be continued. And when they continue, I will continue. So before I log off for today, I am going to ask you guys to please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And I will be back with episode 5. Have a great day. Be blessed, everybody. Be blessed.